But let me, to walk to that dirty water, let me kind of, I guess went back to a talk I did in Kona. What was that? It was May? June. But it comes from Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad originally, and I kind of gave it a Hawaiian local spin. But it has to do with the idea of being raised, for example, and drinking dirty water your whole life. Right? If that's the only water you know, that's the water you drink. But eventually, when somebody show you the clean water, and you taste the clean water for the first time, you go, wow, I never knew there was such a thing as clean water. All this time I've been drinking this dirty water. See, automatically, once I know there's clean water, I don't like drinking this dirty water anymore. And then I realized this dirty water has been making me sick all this time. It's putting me into certain conditions which is not good for me. See, so same with education. As you realize there is this clean water out there, you cannot help but naturally say, frick this, I'm not drinking this dirty water anymore. And so like our minds, for me, it's about the same way. Once you look for this clean water, you understand, this is the good water. This education is the one that's good for us. This is the one that, oh no. This is the one I want. So when they tell you again, and take this away, no, but this is your water. You see, already you start to think, I don't like that water. And then you found out that this is the water you used to drink before. See, it's a very different approach. And I realized that this water, or the so-called dirty water, part of it is that you only drink the dirty water when you think that's the only water you should be drinking. So that's the point of education. So going back to, I think, what Brother Keamoku was sharing, the subject matter jurisdiction and the idea of evidence. See, for me, the court is unable, let me just be clear, the court is unable to refute the facts. That is true. That is true. So whatever you may hear out there, or this and that, the powers to be are the powers to be. They do things. But they can deny, because if they could, they would throw it out. Correct?
Right away.
If they could, they would throw it out. Simple fact. As I said, no, Kaleikoa. Yeah, we know the treaty, and it was an illegal treaty. I said, we'll stop there first. Not that they know how to a treaty, but even the idea that there was an illegal treaty is part of the facade and fabrication. There wasn't even an illegal treaty. What was passed was a joint resolution called the New Lands Resolution 8. A joint resolution is not a treaty. It is either a treaty or it's not. That's simple. You got to understand. See, that's the game. They're somehow going to make you believe that this joint resolution is almost like a treaty. So let's go treat like a treaty. Let's believe in this fake treaty here. But that's not the fact. The fact is a fact. And so for me, I always tell this, no matter where we go as Kanaka, this Lahui Kanaka, we got to use truth. Truth has to be our guide, has to be our pathway. Not fear. I'm scared for do this because. Not greed. If we go here, we can get some money. Not apathy, complacency. Truth. Didn't the great revolutionary himself lay down the words? Then you shall know the truth. And what? And the truth shall set you free. He never say, then you shall fill your pockets with money. Then you get entitlements. Let's go pretend we're Native Americans. See, to me, again, that's the idea. The game is somehow believe, no, but Kaleikoa, yeah, but you guys got used to drinking this dirty water. Why don't you guys just keep on drinking the dirty water? And I refuse. Because I know the truth. I know there's no treaty. Irrefutable. I know they don't have jurisdiction. They have pretend jurisdiction. They have a lot of guns. That's true. That's a fact. But they don't have legal authority. They don't have title. The University of Hawaii can pretend and say, well, that is University of Hawaii land in Mauna Kea. And they like you drink that water. They like you believe in that story, the fabrication. And I tell people, that story is the same as Mickey Mouse. You might as well go read, Sleeping Beauty. It's the same fraudulent story. It's a mythology. And these children's stories are meant to confuse you. See, to me, it's a very simple. Now, yeah, the courts have yet, and that's true, the courts have yet to go say, okay, yeah, that's the truth, and we're going to follow. But that doesn't mean we give up the truth. You see, that's the point. Because right now, maybe get 10 people, 20 people in the courts. I like the day we get 1,000 Hawaiians in the courts. And we get 1,000 non-Hawaiians in the courts. We get 5,000 people in the courts. Now let's go see what's going to happen. As I say, issues of Mauna Kea and Kaleikoa. See, if we had 5,000 people in Mauna Kea is ours again. The day we get 5,000 people ready to block Kaleikoa. See, it's not a game about fear. It's just about having enough of us go drink this clean water. That's the key. The man said, then you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And to me, it's a very simple process. And let me just end by saying this. And some of you were at the meeting, I think last weekend. Congresswoman Hanabusa, or ex-Congresswoman Hanabusa came to do a talk about the DOI. And, one of the things that kind of irked me, she kept on talking about, you Hawaiians should just be smart and just go pretend like you Native Americans over and over again.
She said that.
That's basically what she's trying to say. Now, I'm not saying I always tell people, it's a tactic. You do whatever you can. I say, I like one longer leash too. But I know give one leash. I like one cleaner cage, but I know in one cage. But if you think you make an improvement just with a longer leash or a cleaner cage, you're not, you see. So when Hanabusa's kind of story, that's why I asked her a question. I asked her, now this is a congresswoman. She's a professional attorney by training. And I asked her directly, I said, can you tell me in what year and what legal mechanism that we Hawaiian nationals became United States citizens? When did it occur? And she kind of talked about something else for a while, or I don't know what she was kind of, I said, wait, I'm asking the question again. And I had to ask her 3 times directly. Tell me what year and what legal mechanism. Now, in my reading, I think she knew the answer. She was just playing dumb. Because what was she going to say? Was she going to make up something? That's all she could do. In fact, at the end, I think she said something about statehood 1959 or something. I don't know. That's why she was reaching. See, my point is, we got to challenge at all times. We have to challenge those. We let them know. See, we know the clean water. We have to challenge at all points. Yes, they get the power to act and pretend they don't know. That's true. But see, the reason I do it, because my people, our people, we watch it. And if you watch it and you, well, this congressperson, a trained lawyer, cannot answer that question. Why? Because there is no answer to that question. In 1898, did Hawaiians give up our nationality through the Newlands Resolution? This is not Kaleikoa's opinion. Go and read it yourself. In the so-called Organic Act of 1900, when they set up the territory of Hawaii, did Hawaiian nationals give up our nationality? Nope. In fact, the quote is this: all lands belonging to the Republic of Hawaii now transferred to the United States. What the hell lands did the Republic of Hawaii actually own? Because if the Republic of Hawaii owned lands, who did they get it from? Did Lili'uokalani ever sign over authority of those lands to them? Never. To the provisional government? No. Never. Never did. See, that's this over here. That's that mythology. That's the Snow White story, the Cinderella one they want you guys to believe. It also says in the Organic Act, all citizens of the Republic of Hawaii on August 12, 1898 are henceforth citizens of the United States. Okay, on August 12, 1898, who were citizens of the Republic of Hawaii? Less than 4,000. What about the rest of the nationals? The truth is, it is never addressed. Because you have to give your consent and you have to give up your citizenship. You cannot just forcibly take somebody's one. And so I always challenge people. I said, no, believe none of my stories. I may be bullshitting you guys right now. You guys should know for yourself. Go read the Newlands Resolution. Go read the Organic Act. And like I asked that Congresswoman, tell me when. And the fact is, she couldn't. That's a fact. And the reason why she couldn't, because the truth is the truth. You know, when they talk about Mauna Kea and Halekla, they go, but Kaleikoa, you know, maybe it's state lands and Hawaiian lands. You know, like Elijah Muhammad used to say, you know, you're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. You cannot be kind of pregnant. Well, kind of, no, you're either pregnant or you're not. Either it's our lands or it's their lands. That's simply. And we know for a fact, it was our lands. I use it was. The question is, when did it become their lands? And what mechanism? And the truth is, like I said, it's still our lands. And if it's still our lands, why the heck are they determining usage of those mountains for our people? Why is Governor Ige and the Maui Police Department protecting the rights of people 5,000 miles away from Hawaii? You know, Mauna Kea, they get people from all over the world. The TMT is India, China, Canada, Caltech, the Cal State University system. Not even from this land here. And Governor Ige's office is protecting, and not protecting, but enforcing their rights as investors over the truth. That's the truth now. And our people who've been here for a long time. See, that kind of tells you something about who is working for who is supporting who. You guys remember this all this time. And let me just end by saying, you know, I think one of the interesting quotes I remember, Dr. Sai here was on a panel with Williamson Chang, law professor at UH, and ex-governor John Waihe. It's an important quote. This is the ex-governor who said, you got to be illiterate to not know that Hawaii is occupied. That's why his own words. Why? Because he knows what he's going to do. Pretend? Now, he may be kind of confused in some of the things he's doing today, but the fact remains, if you have any doubt of Hawaii's status as occupied nation state, there is no doubt. That's just confusion. So, forget about the dirty water. Let's drink the clean water. Let's drink the truth. So.
We'll take this one question, but at 8:30, 8:45, we'll have question and answers. But for this one, we'll take the question for now. Go.
Aloha? Oh, yes. Okay. Hi. I'm not trying to take the spotlight in any way, but the thing is, as we all get older, and you young people may not understand this yet, our memory, is short term. Yeah? So by the time one gentleman says something good, and I want to say, yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. And then next guy, I forget what he was talking about. So this I have to keep up now. Yeah?
Write your question down. Find the cards and write them down on a paper.
This is Maui. No, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm Hawaiian by blood, and all of us in here probably Hawaiian by heart, But one thing I have to say is that I know this. In business, it's not what you know, but it's who you know. Yeah? And we know what that means. Okay? Now, Mr. Dr. Sai here, I remember 10 years ago, he mentioned one thing, Rwanda. Yeah? Now, Rwanda was willing to take the step up, the big step, go up and say, hey, United States, you guys are doing things wrong and illegal and unlawful. Mr. Sai here said, we're not ready. But I think that was 10 years ago. Okay. Time is of the essence. We all know that. The longer we take to get something done, people forget. So even when you go to school, you get educated. You can go to school for 10 years. You still forget. Is that right? I know I forget some things I learned in school. The question is, if we had Rwanda to come, if you were to take them up for that offer they gave you, do you think that might be helpful for us at this time? Thank you.
So what Uncle's referring to is I had a meeting with an ambassador from Rwanda in Brussels, Belgium, after our case in The Hague, 2000, December. And they retrieved all the information from the court. And they basically concluded that Hawaii's occupied, because it's self-evident, we're in the court talking about occupation, and that Rwanda is prepared to report to the United Nations the prolonged occupation of Hawaii. So that's actually written in my law journal article. So I actually had the law journal actually verify that meeting actually took place, because it kind of does sound kind of fantastic, like I'm making it up.
Good movie would make it.
It'll make a good movie. But to answer Uncle's question, would that have changed anything today? And this is just my mana'o on this. We weren't ready back then. No way. Because when I'm looking at fixing the problem, I'm not looking at fixing the problem with nearsightedness. I'm looking at fixing the problem that it's going to continue down the road. So I'm not into quick fixes. I remember my tutu used to tell me, when you start something, don't be kapulu. Finish it, even if it takes a while. But that decision we made, we didn't consult with anybody. I just came from experience at the University of Hawaii, and at that time in the year 2000, Kaleikoa knows, everybody thought it was colonized. Everybody thought indigenous rights, Native American. You got guys who thought they actually belonged to sovereignty groups and kings and queens and prime ministers, governors, Republican Party, Democratic Party, this whole potpourri of confusion. There was no way we could have accepted that, because it's almost like you're starting something that you can't control and then everything just blows up. To me, I took that as an acknowledgement of the reality that they see what's wrong with us, but we have to go home to get our own people to see what's wrong with us. And it's a long process, But I gotta constantly keep in mind, our kupuna and Queen Lili Okalani, she did not make sporadic decisions. She made decisions that would affect the future. And every decision that was made, I can tell you now, is why we're doing what we're doing and how we can get this thing finished. In the past, people thought, I heard them say this, even up at UH, Hawaiian Studies, man, the Queen should have took on the Marines. Yeah, right. Yeah, okay, you could have taken on the Marines, take them out. Guess what? They keep coming. You know how big America is.
That's what happened to the Spanish. Yeah? And look what happened then. So the Queen was put in a position, or Kupuna, Joseph Navahi, James Kaulia. They didn't like what was happening. In fact, James Kaulia kept saying, don't give up. You know, it got to a point where I heard there was a story of James Kaulia just so dismayed because tiring out when you keep saying the same thing over and over and the fish is coming and just overwhelming. Oh, that brother was a bit ono one time. You know, but it gets to a point where, and I'm always referring back to my tutu. I remember she told me, she said, ho'o manavanui. That's what she says. Ho'o manavanui. And she tells me, ho'o manavanui doesn't mean to be patient. It means don't spin your wheels. Because then you get tired when you really got to do the work. So ho'o manavanui is not pushing. It's finding the time, the right time. I've actually gone through that, and I've learned that. And also have a little touch of my military training. And you got to go through that too, because you got to know how to fight. Yeah? And when you fight, you don't fight to win that battle. You fight to win the war. And at times, that battle, you may die, but the war never ends. But your death becomes a means for another battle. That's all part of the process. And I think we have to just help each other out in getting to that point. You know, I can't predict the future, but I can tell you what happened in the past. That leads up to 1 week ago, to a minute ago, to what I just said 2 seconds ago. I can't retract any of that. But what can I use in that to move forward and address this problem?
So
and that's the key.
So Anu, I thought I heard the question this way. Maybe you can help us with that, because I'd like to know. So how about now? He's asking it. Maybe is now the time to approach Rwanda?
Well, I think
or something in that context, or somebody. And I think to a certain extent, Keanu has done that by approaching the Swiss government.
Exactly.
By us approaching other governments as well. We're in that process, but now that we have, I think, a better knowledge base among our own people, we need to now educate the rest of the international community. So I think to a certain extent, we are attempting to do that, but I know your question is specific. Now is it the time to go back to them? Right. Right.
Well, they didn't, Uncle, they didn't get into that stuff. It was just, yeah. Well, actually, oh yeah. Well, within what Dexter was referring to, because this thing is getting so sophisticated now, this is beyond Rwanda. Now we're talking to Switzerland. Now we're talking to Canada. We're talking war crimes. That wasn't spoken about at that time. Now, the one thing that we have to keep in mind, too, is when you see this whole thing for what it really is, this whole thing is illegal. Okay, this is what I conveyed to Mike McCartney. Because when you talk about bad things, this is all illegal, this whole thing can collapse. Jobs, business, money, economics, going to collapse. Here's the reason why. And this is what caught the attention of Mike. First of all, you got to identify what is the state of Hawaii. Okay, right now, the state of Hawaii is not a government. It's not. Okay, it's not. The state of Hawaii was created by the United States Congress in 1959. Number one problem, United States Congress is limited to U.S. territory. Hawaii got to be a part of the United States before the Congress can create the state of Hawaii. Okay, you got to go back to how do we become a part of the United States. So the state of Hawaii in 1959 is just what the United States said. But you cannot deny the state of Hawaii, made up of a lot of us who work in it. I work at the university. Kaleikoa works in the university. It's not a government. So what is it? Well, the state of Hawaii, all it was a name change of what was called the territory of Hawaii in 1900, when Congress created the territory of Hawaii. Again, same thing. Congress limited U.S. territory, said this is the territory of Hawaii. Well, then what is the territory of Hawaii? Wasn't a government. Well, in the Organic Act, like Kaleikoa pointed out, the Organic Act says that what was formerly the Republic of Hawaii is the territory of Hawaii. Oh, okay, so now they're talking about an entity that was created outside of the United States called the Republic of Hawaii. Okay, so who's the Republic of Hawaii? Well, in 1894, it used to be called the Provisional Government. Who created the Provisional Government? The United States ambassador, illegally, called intervention, which President Cleveland, in his investigation, said the Provisional Government is neither de facto nor de jure, but self-declared. So the genealogy of the state of Hawaii goes back to a self-declared entity that carjacked the Hawaiian Kingdom government and turned it into something. What exactly did it turn into? Because when you're talking international law, what is it? Is it a person? Is it a corporation? Is it a non-government organization? Is it a government? All these things come into play. So then, if the provisional government was self-declared, then it's not a government, right? It's self-declared. That means it's not a government. But they have power. They got guns. They got mercenaries that they hired to fill their ranks. They took over the King's Guard and turned it into the National Guard. See, that's actually from the Kingdom era. It's called carjacking. So what I needed to explain to Mike, what exactly is the state of Hawaii? That's what we got to start off with. Under the laws and customs of war, okay, because what was created in 1893 was out of an invasion that the president admitted Hawaii was invaded by the United States. It was an act of war. His words, and it was. When you create something that is not a government, that's actually called an armed force. That's the term. It's an armed force. Armed forces on behalf of an occupier, which the U.S. occupied Hawaii from January 16, 1893 to April 1st, 1893. That was an armed force that was self-declared, but it had effectiveness because of U.S. backing. So all the businesses that, let's say, the provisional government created really aren't businesses because that wasn't a government that created that business. That was a Boy Scout troop that was heavily armed. And then they changed the name to the Republic. They create more business. They have notaries transferring title, but that's not real notaries. That's guys calling them notaries from a Boy Scout troop called the Republic. And then that Republic, the U.S., changed the name to territory. Notice nothing changed, though. And then 1959, name change again. It's still an armed force. Different name, but the people who's in the armed force now is our own people. Running this carjacked car. And who refuse to accept the fact they're not real. Even though the evidence is all there. That's the game we playing in the court. It's a game to really expose to even our own people, look, we're not making this stuff up. And don't walk down this path. Now let's take a look at what is, and this is what Mike and I talked about, economics. Money. Did you know that the tourist is the #1 contributor to the state of Hawaii through revenue? Hotel tax, excise tax, rental car tax, they get taxed all over the place. That's the monies that coming in. Well, because the state of Hawaii is not a government, but a Boy Scout troop, pretending to be a government, that's not taxation. That's called pillaging. That's robbery. That's the war crime of robbery. And under the laws of occupation, an armed force can be the subject of pillaging. All of a sudden, my friend who's a tax collector, who's a really cool brother, he's pillaging. You see how everything get caught when this reality kicks in. Then I told him, Mike, New York Stock Exchange, Bank of Hawaii, Hawaiian Electric, First Hawaiian, they all listed on New York Stock Exchange because they created it as a corporation. But they didn't create it as a corporation because they're not a government. That whole thing's fraud. And all the shareholders of Bank of Hawaii all over the world bought nothing. It never really existed. This was make-believe. All the properties in Hawaii, all defective, no more title. Who's the notary? From an armed force? That's the reality check. All of a sudden, we're going to get hit. So when you start to bring out the truth, it starts to come very close to yourself. See, when you go to the light, the truth, the light, when you go real close, guess what? You get burned. Stay back and make use of the light so you can see. Don't stick your face in the light. So the question then is, how do we fix this problem without having Hawaii get thrown into economic chaos? That's the reality check. And all these things that had to be done at the university, what we're doing up there is I'm encouraging doctoral students and master's students to start coming up with plans. How are you going to fix this problem? When I first came out with my dissertation in 2008, first thing my professors wanted to know on my committee, because they couldn't break it, how do you fix the problem? See, that's the natural consequence. How do you fix the problem? And that's when it gets very complicated. It's not like we can all sit around and figure this thing out, because there are variables involved that are international and global. So we got to know how that game is played. It's almost like we got to go back into the shoes of our kupuna, who understood the international relations and the political economy. And first thing I would say is, what would Joseph Navahi do in our situation? Because Joseph Navahi knew who he was as a Hawaiian subject, and he was very much an economic driving force in Hilo. Joseph Navahi was actually known for creating huis, Native Hawaiians to be put in partnerships. Those were huis that was recorded with the Minister of the Interior to do business. Hawaiians was involved with retail, trade, selling land. How's that? I found a hui of Hawaiians, which is a company, they sell land. But see, that was their own country. 1880s. Do you know when Joseph Navahi got sick with tuberculosis because this armed force called the Republic of Hawaii arrested him and he contracted it in the jail? He went to California. You know what he was doing in California? Looking at the banking system to bring home. See, that's how our kupuna were operating, not just resisting, but how do we take this further? And I think that's what we need to keep in mind. The deeper we go, the more we realize how much more we got to know. And it's just out of cautiousness, because we don't have people advising us on how to fix this problem. It's like we're putting it together, but listening to our kupuna and how would they do it, and then keeping in mind we've been indoctrinated for the last 3 generations. My own grandfather, Mike Tutu, was part of that indoctrination of denationalization. Couldn't speak Hawaiian, Star Spangled Banner, red, white, and blue, and all the presidents. Some of the stuff that we talk about today in college, talk about Hawaiian history like it's taken for granted, that only started like 20 years ago. Really, this kind of history. So imagine when we reconnect to our kupuna, how much more is going to come. But it's like standing in front of a fire hydrant, and once that thing blasts, brother, you got to soak that thing in or get out of the way. So what we need to keep doing, and I know Time is of the essence, Uncle. I hear it. No, it is. But you know what? When you look at the length of our occupation, people say, that's pretty long, over 120 years. But if you look at 120 years in a country that existed since 1200 AD, it's kind of small. Are we willing to, or am I willing to throw all of that away for the sake of proving something? Sometimes I got to sit back and I don't want to prove nothing. I want this thing to play out itself. Because then it's grounded. Then the roots are deep. Right now the roots are kind of shallow, And when the wind comes, these trees take off, they fly. What we got to do is we got to keep teaching and keep educating so that the roots go deep. They got to go deep. They got to go as deep as the kupuna's roots were deep. That is their mo'okuauhau. It's deep. We don't only have to reconnect to our kupuna of the 19th century. We got to go back all the way. But we also got to keep in mind we can also connect to our kupuna not from here. It's like for me, I'm part Haole. My great-grandfather came from Tennessee, Charles Reeves. There's something in him that made me who I am. I cannot exclude him and only look at my tutu, So I need to know for myself, my own family, and the roots. That's the key. It's who we are to make proper decisions. Who we are. And everyone here that I see genealogy. Because everybody to me is a walking genealogy. They are. Whether you guys see it or not, everyone here is a walking genealogy. Because if I see pictures from your family, I should see your great-grandfather, your great-grandmother, your grandmother, your mom in you. Say, I can see the eyes. I see that tendency of your grandfather. But you snap a lot. I remember a friend, Sydney E.L. Kale. She's got her PhD. Okay? Sydney E.L. Kale, Maui girl. That's right. And I take some credit. I coached her at Kamehameha Schools, Kanu Padley. Yeah, and the father was a wrestler. Curtis the Boo, E.L. Kale. Now, what was interesting at this dissertation defense that she did, where she actually continued where her grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather, Colonel Curtis E.L. Kale. So while she was giving her talk, the picture of him was on the PowerPoint, just there, and Sydney's talking. And I'm looking at Sydney, and I'm looking at him like, whoa. You see the nose? You see the same stature, the way she stands? I'm like, wow, that's a walking genealogy right there. So when she was reconnecting to her great-great-grandfather, he was speaking through her. That's what I believe we all got to start to do. Give voice to our kupuna through us. Yeah? That's the process. And if things will work out. Now, there's also things that I cannot divulge because we are operating in top secret mode. Yeah. See, you don't tell people you're going fishing. Otherwise, the fish going here and swim away. When I come back with the poke, then you know where I went, and you don't have to only eat poke that's made from ahi. It could be nenui. Once you see it in nenui, you go, I know where that brother went. That's a place called Switzerland. The au, Malin. That's Canada. So we got to know all these different fish around the world and how to use them to help us. But also, they want to know how can they use us to help them. Because when they start walking down this path of war crimes and the effect that this have, they also want to know how we're going to fix this problem. See, everybody's going to get to the natural conclusion, how do you fix it? But you can't talk about fixing it unless you have some of the language that speaks to the problem. And then when you say, this is how you can fix it, which is this is how you can make poke, then people go, I get them. Yeah, I can see you can make poke out of nenui. All this time I was only eating poke with ahi though. But you can. And it tastes a little different though. Yeah? But that's, all of life is a learning process. And trust me, I've seen a lot of people that come out, and I say this with all due respect, we got some Hawaiians that are very good storytellers. Very good storytellers. The best, but he tells good stories. But I've seen people weave stories. Now, how do you address a Kanaka who's making stuff up, who's trying to convince everybody he's right.
Drink the dirty water.
No, you educate the people on the topic that this brother's talking about. See, in order to spot, how do you stop a con man, okay, is you educate people about a con. Don't badmouth the con man, just explain what a con looks like. Yeah, and then people make their own choice. So that was important for me, that I needed to get the qualifications to ensure that I can speak to these issues. So I had to devote, 8 years of my life getting my master's degree and my PhD, just so that I can show that this thing has been vetted and I'm not making this stuff up. But what it took to get there, oh, you're talking borrowing plenty money, yeah, taking loans from the feds, which I'm still paying. You still paying your loans? No more loans, this guy. I had to keep borrowing money. I had to keep borrowing money from financial aid to send my sons to St. Louis because it was too expensive. Now I'm paying for that because now I got to pay that money back. But we all have to take the steps to better ourselves. And I encourage people, if you're a police officer, take the step to get educated and educate yourself on what's going on so you can make the right decision. If you're an attorney, take the step to better educate yourself to make the right decisions in what's going on in the courts. If you're a judge, everybody's got to take that step to further educate themselves. And please don't let anybody tell you this is how you got to think. You got to know how to think.
Let me add to that. On Moko Keawe, about 6 weeks ago, Skippy Owane came up with an idea of trying to put together and celebrate Hawaiian holidays. La Kaho'okahi, La Ho'iho'i'ea, and the Queen's birthday, and how we were going to be able to do it on the island. So we decided to target the county council. Start from grassroots, because the county council is throughout all of our community and we see them all the time. So we did. Guess what? The county council voted unanimously to draft a resolution in support of La Ho'iho'i'ea, and they sent it up to the legislature. Maui should do that with your county council. These are ways that you can look at how we can support what's taking place at the international level, at the state level, what's going on up at Haleakala, what's going on at Mauna Kea. Because now we're really educating the general public that the Hawaiian Kingdom actually does exist. And more so, what took place with the county council, we had several of their council members literally crying when we made the presentation, because they understood, because they had kupuna that went through these issues and problems. I challenge you here on Maui to take that and do that. The next thing that we're going to be drafting with the county council, because now we've got county council members who are in support, is to draft a bill to educate their police force. Because the police force are the ones, you got all these young guys in the police force as well as old guys who really don't know, but you have their supervisors ordering them to arrest Hawaiian Kingdom subjects. And when the Hawaiian Kingdom subjects say, you have no jurisdiction, they really don't know what's taking place, except their supervisors have told them that everything that Hawaiian Kingdom activists are doing is frivolous, no count. So go arrest them. But they're seeing everything else around them, as well as what they're reading on Facebook, what they're seeing coming out in the news and so forth, and they're in a state of confusion. So this is our opportunity now to go to the county council to get them to draft a bill to allow guys like Dr. Sai, Kaleikoa, and Dexter to come in and provide a workshop to educate them, so that should they decide to arrest the Hawaiian Kingdom subject, they've been informed. But I'll bet you, when they learn all of this stuff, they're not going to want to put themselves at risk at doing that. The other thing that's been really, really interesting. Go ahead.
Just to touch on it real quick. Remember I talked about the state of Hawaii was the territory of Hawaii. The territory of Hawaii was the Republic of Hawaii. The Republic of Hawaii was the provisional government. The provisional government was the Hawaiian Kingdom government. This entity that we are living in today is actually our government. It's just another name. So when Kale's talking about the county council, what's going to be interesting is you change it from the inside out. You're not talking to an entity that is alien. You're talking about our government that is an armed force that needs to become a government again. So that begins education, and that's why what Kale meant in educating the police is also precisely what Dexter does by educating the courts. People educating other civil people, civil workers. So part of the solution to fix this problem is that we are already in the solution. Education will get people to see that. So if all it took was oaths of allegiance signed over to the left, right? How do you reverse that? Get oaths of allegiance, sign it to the right. It's really that simple. But education is important to know, what does that mean if I do that? What are the implications? So it's going to be a process, and it begins with constantly people asking questions, being informed. But we need to start to address the state of Hawaii not as some American foreign entity, but actually the Hawaiian Kingdom government that got carjacked. That's where it flips from the inside out. We got to think that way. And it would be a lot easier when we think this way because it's our own people in the government. It's my cousin, it's my family, it's my friend, it's me. It's not that difficult. It's not like we got Nazis running our state of Hawaii. We got our own people just making bad decisions.
The other thing is that some of the entities that we should be looking at, realtors, the Board of Realtors for Maui, Board of Realtors for Hawaii Island. They're the guys that are selling off all of the Hawaiian lands that have defective titles. These realtors have not been educated, or they choose to ignore it because nobody has informed them, and they say, oh, the sovereignty activists are frivolous. So therefore, let me sell you this property with a defective title, but I'm not going to tell you about it. Oh, and by the way, go get the $600,000 financing in the meantime. We need to get to the Board of Realtors for them to get educated and bring all the realtors on every island so that we can educate them. This is where it starts, from you, the grassroots people. If you're thinking, well, what can I do? These are the things that you can do. And secondly, I'm very proud of Kaho'okahi because he is the result or the end result of Dr. Sai's move to educate people. Because this is the entity that's now up at Mauna Kea. We have now the Hawaiian Spring. You know, they understood, they learned all of the history and so forth from Dr. Sai, and I'll let you explain that.
It's not only me. There's a lot of people who teach this. It's just, I guess I'm in the front a lot. But there's a lot of people that teach this at the university right here. UH Manoa, we got different professors. That's the depth of this information, and that's what's important, that the information has become institutionalized, not politicized. Institutionalized is crucial, and I think we're at that stage. Okay.
You know, for many of us on Mauna Kea, Haleakala as well, we all come from kind of the same generation. I'm 26 years old, mid-20s. A lot of the people on the Mauna that have been there from the very beginning are the same age as me. Some a little younger, some a little older. And so, you look back, let's just say 30 years ago, it's in the beginning of what we're looking at not too long after the 70s, Kaho'okahi, everything going on. And then you have 78, they do the Con. They recognize, Hawaiian language as an official language of the state, so on and so forth. And you got Oha created. And so it's the beginning of really a change in a portion of the educational system. Hawaiian immersion schools. Later on, we get to Hawaiian charter schools. And so a lot of us in this time, a lot of our keiki here, your guys' keiki here, they're going through these programs. And, like I told Oha, we went through a program that didn't jump through hoops to make sure we didn't know the truth. We went through a program that had to jump through hoops to make sure we did know the truth. And they taught us our language. They taught us our stories, which gave us a certain perspective and desire within us to continue to seek things that are in alignment with that. And so, for me, I've spent the last 10 years of my life, really, which is not a long time, but it's more than a third of my life, so kind of a long time for me at this point. But really, just a short time, 10 years. Really, 10 years as far as, listening, following these people, listening to the things that they have to say, being educated by them. I only met Kaleikoa a few months ago. I met Keanu about a year ago. Met Dexter after I got arrested. So we're all real short time. But within that, I was able to grasp and to understand the things that they're trying to say. And I'm not the only one by far. I mean, there's so much of us. And like Kaleikoa was saying, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. But it's not as simple as reading no treaty, no annexation, no 58th state, and then that's going to set us free. How does it set us free? So to me, it's about knowing the truth and then becoming the truth. We are the truth. And we need to produce the truth. We need to act upon the truth. We need to be the truth. And I don't know a lot. I'm not a genius, but I'm not a dummy either. I know enough to know that the information that I learned from people like this, the stories I learn, whether through reading Mo'olelo or hearing it from Kupuna, it's all real. It's the truth. And even within my young years, or whatever it is, I would debate anybody on that. Because you get to, just show me the treaty. Paul, you win. You need to know, a couple words. And they cannot do it. So, we go through this, and we know that we need to do something. Again, we need to be the truth. We cannot allow the truth to lie in the books, to lie in the papers, to lie in the videos. We need to recreate it. We need to be it. And I think that's what Mauna Kea, that's what Haleakala, there's so much more to come. There's so much more to come. I think every island is really going to find, we got a bunch of issues to choose from. We could really just pull from a hat and say, okay, we're going to fight this one. But I think every island is going to be very strategic about what they're going to fight. Pick our battles. And in terms of looking towards the future, ku'e petitions, I have many kupuna on there. My great-grandfather is on there, Kahikina. And he was 11 years old when he signed that petition. So great-grandfather, grandfather, father, and me. 3 generations separated from him. And everything that happened in between. So from my grandfather to my grandpa to my dad, there was a slight, maybe not degress, but forgetting of our history, of the truth, or manipulation and conforming, in a sense, to a system not because we want to, but because we needed to survive. That's the mo'olelo we all hear about the language, about kids going to school and getting beaten for speaking Hawaiian. Eventually there comes a point in time as a makua, we got to make a decision. Am I going to force my keiki to go to school every day and tell them take the pain? Or am I going to say, because I aloha this keiki, because I need to malama lava. We're going to adjust, we're going to conform so that we can survive. But that's all it was simply survival. It wasn't thriving like how we were before. And so, little by little, we're forgetting. And then we come to my generation and my family, and now we're remembering. So, when I look at it, I think we're like, I always say, well, we're seeking this ea, this re-recognized independence. I firmly believe it happens in my lifetime. I believe that. But like Keanu is saying, that doesn't mean we rush through things. But I firmly believe it happens in our lifetime. I think we're about 2 generations away. Because my keiki gonna know a lot more than I know, and his keiki gonna know a lot more than he know. And if we continue with that mindset that we're gonna produce people, future generations that are gonna be bigger, or not bigger, but better, smarter, and greater than we are, then it is only a matter of time. But these things need to happen. Mauna Kea, Haleakala, other types of resistance. Because we need to show that we don't only know these things, but we're willing to live these things. Again, we're willing to be the truth. And we will struggle so that future generations, so that my keiki and their keiki don't have to struggle through the same things that we struggle through. Will they have to struggle? Probably. But hopefully by that time it's a different struggle, where we're progressing towards something and they can take the next step, if there are steps to be taken at that time. And so, we're just, if you know the truth, would you believe anything other than the truth? As simple as that. I know it. You can't tell me otherwise. You can't show me otherwise. I'm going to believe it. And I believe it so much that I'm willing to do anything, to be it. And if that means getting arrested once, it means getting arrested once. If it means, doing it over and over again, if it means whatever it means, then I know that I know that many others are willing, more than willing, to do what's necessary. And again, for me, I'm a graduate of Punana Leo Kona, Kula Puni, and then the first graduating class, the first class of Hawaiian immersion, Hawaiian programs in Kona. So you're not going to find anybody older than me that went through that from the place that I'm from. What that means, though, to me, is I'm the worst we got. I'm the worst we got. So when I'm talking with Ige and I'm talking with McCartney, I'm telling these guys, if you guys think it's hard with me, then you got no idea what you're dealing with. You're lucky you're in here now and not 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I was the guinea pig. I was reading the books that had to be cut up and tuko to the pepper. It was C-spot run, but Ikea spot, holowana. It wasn't necessarily reading Punia. Hi'iaka at that time. And then little by little, these resources are starting to come in. And so we just ho'omanawa nui. It's going to happen, but we need to continue the process. We need to struggle. And some say it's not a struggle because we enjoy it. You can enjoy it. But the truth is it's a struggle. It's a struggle. But I believe, the more we struggle, the stronger we get. And then, of course, the stronger we get, the less we struggle. So let's do it now. And, I'm excited to see what happens in the future. But I truly believe we're just a little ways away. But we got to be patient. It's going to happen. The right place, the right time, the right people. And it's soon. But we just need to stick to the process. Continue to educate from preschool through college, through adulthood, community things. This is what it is. And then when we take that information and then make it real.
Mahalo. Kia moku. Kia mara'o.
I guess I still have the vision of the dirty water with Kaleikoa. And I thought, wow, it's profound, because when you're actually talking about dirty water and all the buildings of that telescope and all the damage that's being done by the telescopes and all the leakages and so to speak going down into our ground well, I thought we really are talking about dirty water if we don't stop that. Yeah. But what occurs to me is that it also is, in my mind, a holistic approach as well. I mean, you may come to this because you have an eye for the law or you're interested in the law. Or you may come to this because you are a cultural practitioner. And as a cultural practitioner, you have certain kuleana. And one of that, of course, it always runs all the way through, is that protection of our aina, yeah? Protection of our resources, protection of our vahikapu, vahipana. So if that's how you come to it, that's just as important. I had a conversation with one of the protectors once on Mauna Kea, and she spoke to me about the importance of Mauna Kea from a religious and cultural standpoint. and perhaps some concern that this talk of occupation was overshadowing the importance of Mauna Kea, Mauna Awakea. And I totally understood that, because I believe, Mauna Awakea existed long before man, and it existed long before the laws of man. So I am totally on board with that. But we had the further conversation. I said, I'm on board with you. But my question to you is, when you're arrested and you go into court, do you just say, I accept what the court gives me, but this is my practice? Or do you say, because of my practice, what I'm doing is protected, and I shouldn't be arrested, or I shouldn't be cited? If you say that, then the next question is, what laws of man protects your religion or your culture? If you start to say that it is the Hawaiian State Constitution and my right to practice because of these Hawaii Supreme Court cases, that's where you and I will have a difference of opinion. Because for me, the root of this evil is the illegal occupation. That is the root of this evil. So long as we continue to operate under the laws of the Hawaii State Constitution or Hawaii State Statute, what we are doing, intentionally or unintentionally, is adopting the legitimacy of an illegal government. So you are correct when you say, and you criticize me for saying, well, but Kaiama, if you just say we're under illegal occupation, that doesn't stop me from getting arrested. That doesn't stop me from perhaps eventually being found guilty of the violation of one of their laws. And I have to agree with you. Of course, it might result in that. But what we need to do is, as a community, we need to continue to say that our oppression, what we're facing today, that these evils that are continuing to occur and will continue to occur, is a result of the illegal occupation and will not be stopped by their own laws. In fact, their own laws are meant to continue to facilitate that and to allow that to continue to happen. So, and of course, we have a great respect for each other and we continue, but I'm just saying, that's why I think it's important when I see what Kaleikoa does and I see what Kaho'okahi does and all of the people that protest the laws. Because they're saying you don't belong here. These laws don't apply to us. But along the way, of course, my opinion is, if people were to ask me, I would say that should be the first thing you say. That it's because of this illegal occupation that you're trying to enforce your laws on me. So we need to continue to say that and constantly say that throughout the communities. Because that's part of our educating, not only ourselves, but the rest of the world. And I know it's easier said than done, but we need to sometimes think about it and think about whether, if we try to use some of their laws to help us, do we sometimes confuse ourselves and confuse the issues as well? So maybe it might require more sacrifice on our part, but to be consistent in our message that we send out, to be consistent in the path we follow. And I can only speak for myself, because we all deal with the dilemmas. I deal with the dilemma myself. I'm in their court. I'm in their court arguing that they don't belong here. So that's a contradiction in of itself. But for now, part of my reason for doing that is I believe I'm trying to educate them as well. And that's my means of educating them. And by educating them, it just happens to get out to the rest of the community. Luckily for people like Kaho'okahi and other people who are good with our internet, and I'm not so great at it, they get that information out. And that information, at some point, gives us an opportunity to digest it. And for some of us, we accept it, adopt it now. And when we adopt it, we act in accordance with that. And for other people, it's a longer process. But I have to say, for me, I know I try to be as consistent as possible. I understand sometimes we have some of these dilemmas. So we need to continue to focus on the fact that their laws are illegal. We need to continue to focus on the fact that they cannot show us that they have title here. They cannot show us that they have legitimacy here. We need to continue to say that, whether it's among ourselves, whether it's in the courts, whether it's everywhere, and it should be everywhere. Because I think it is that message that resonates and eventually helps the other communities outside of Hawaii eventually help us as well. Anyway, that's my mana on that. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Also, to follow up what Kaeo Moku just said, the difference, and also Kaleikoa, once you know the truth, then what do you do about it? You know, and at what level are you really willing to lay it on the line? Okay, and this is a decision that everybody is facing today. Because as you learn more and more about this information, like coming to this seminar or panel discussion that we're having, you're learning more information. And then it might take you going to Dr. Sai's blog, hawaiiankingdom.org/blog, and read up even more if you haven't already done that. And buying the book, Ua Mau Ke'eo, seeing the kids, or seeing our protectors up at Mauna Kea, and wondering, what am I missing? Then you take the step to learn what they learn. And you're starting to say, this is a truth. What am I going to do about it? And this is one of the things that I'm seeing with Laulima clients that have stayed with us. Because at first, when they came to us, it was out of desperation and very scared of what the state of Hawaii was going to do and what the bank was going to do. And as they understood and started to learn more and more and started to read what was taking place at the international level, the blogs, I started to see a shift of being afraid, and now all of a sudden they're willing to go to battle with these banks, and almost to the point where they can go pro se in the court because they learned the truth. And the truth started to really burn a hot fire within them. But they're doing it within reasonable bounds that they can deal with. Unlike myself, I got arrested. Not once, but twice. Because I refused to accept all of the fraudulent stuff that took place in the courts. I knew the truth. And I was also to the point where I was prepared to shoot it out with the sheriffs that came to my house.
Not literally.
Literally. Literally. But good thing for Keao Moku and Keanu. And we went a different route in order to build more evidence against them. But the aloha aina, the patriotism, started to build in me to the point where this is the truth, and until you can tell me anything different or show me anything different, I am Hawaiian, and will stay that way. But everybody has got their own levels to take. And this is why when we come here tonight, we're providing information to you. We're going to take a 5-minute break.